May's place at number 26 Ryan Avenue, Woodville West in December 1985. In December 1985.
New in the family, what order, and then to break it down to those that are here today, or for the others that aren't, to find out who they married. We won't have time to break into the spouse's side of the family because that'll go on forever and ever. We'll keep it in what we've got here. So who you married, and the children, and the grandchildren. And we'll do that one by one, so for me and for the others we can get a good idea of who's who. And then I'd like to go back through later, if we've got time, and just to go over a few things like what life was like when you were all around 8, 10, around that sort of era. I'd like to find out things like transport, what sort of things are available, where you could go shopping, where you go to school, what sort of clothes are available, that type of thing.
Nothing.
Yeah, so we'll start off perhaps, if somebody could tell me just how many children there were and where everybody fits in the age group.
Nine.
There's 9. And who's the oldest?
I am. Kathleen. And Bill. Bradley, Mary, Fred, Marge, Lottie, Lynn.
Right. So if we start with you then, Auntie Kathleen, if you can tell us who you married and then the children and then grandchildren.
Then there was one lost to us. The Ryan who survived and was married in the
9 altogether.
Yeah.
Including the dad.
9 altogether.
Now what year? Oh, about 1919, I think.
1980, 1990. So I was born in 1960.
Yeah.
I was born 1902.
Few years.
And I married James Button.
Where did he come from?
Ballarat.
He was from Ballarat. Did you meet him in Ballarat?
No, I met him in Melbourne.
Right.
Living on the boat. I met him when I was going a trip over to Sydney. And we both sailed to Sydney. He went on to New Zealand. For about 2 years over there. He came home, came back, and we got married. And one child, Laura Button, stepdaughter, and now where do I go on from there?
Who did they marry?
He married Greta Fillmore, and one child, Brooke Button, Brooke Kathleen. And I've got 2 step-grandsons, and that's the end of mine.
And who are they?
Gregory and Philip.
That's the end of all right. And who's the second eldest?
Philip, of our family.
Yes. Right. So can somebody tell us his name?
Just a Married Jack Allen.
Did they have any children?
No children. Who? Oh.
So then we need somebody to tell us about Uncle Bill.
Yes. What year was Bill born? I don't know. We have a child who's here, 2.5 years. Well, that's from 1902. So that makes Bill born in 1905, doesn't it?
Something like that.
Yes, it would be 5. Yeah, it would be. Well, he married Mary Willard. Yes, that's right. You go on now, Rhonda. And they had 7 children, 2 died.
Who's the oldest son of the children?
Dolly, Morris, deceased. Yeah, Morris, and then Terry. Bobby, Kay, and Doug.
So now the big job, remembering what children they each had.
That's a big job. You got a big one tonight? Well, I've got 4. Barry's got 5.
Can you tell us who they are? The names of, the names of all for us, please. Yeah.
Well, Terry, Peter, Colin, and Rosalind.
And have they got children?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's 11 of them.
You knew that was half the time.
I was going to say it comes to mine. Now, Terry's got Mark, Jason, and Megan. Peter's got Simon, Beverly and Kerry Ann. Colin's got Ben and Matt. Wilson's got Jamie, Sarah and Johnny. That's not the brother, no, that's my... That's your family. That's yours. No, I've done it. When you said your family's children. Well, you said your family, your family children, that was right.
Yeah, you've been struggling, I think, to do all the brothers and sisters.
Oh, well, I know, but
But just perhaps tell us how many each have.
little dad and then a big load of all. Wilson, Barry, Janice, Trevor, Greg and Karen, Bob. Bob's got 3. Shane and Nicole and Kerry, Kay. She's got Trudy, Billy Joe and Tammy. And Bob's got, Dad, 2. Dad's got 2. Randy and Jody. Jody's both and Randy. Yeah, Jody and Randy. Yeah, that's the baby.
Yes, so that's that line there.
Yes.
We've got Kate. Yeah, because you're saying Trudy, Billy Joe. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So then we come down, I suppose, next one on the line is who's Nanny?
You know mine.
Well, you can tell us, Anna.
Well, it was you for. There's Margaret. She married me, Trace.
Yeah, well, who'd you marry first of all, now?
I married Jim. Jim Cooper.
Right, so then,
Well, I had a little boy I married first, and I lost the baby.
and just tell us, Nana, who the children are, your grandchildren then.
Roy's got Who's Roy's Roy's got Jerry.
Well, he's got, Ricky's adopted, isn't he? No.
That's Jane, Catherine and Mary.
And can you remember their little children's names? Jane's, what's she got? She's got 2.
Jane's got 2. She's got Marcus and Nathan. And what's gone? Catherine and Isaac. Madeline, that's Isaac. The other one's got a name too, a biblical name. What's his name?
Adam.
No, not Adam. I can think of his name. You? No.
So,
Who are you selling?
Catherine.
Catherine's, yeah.
Joshua?
Joshua. Yes. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right. Joshua.
Right. And then there's Mum with Marlene, me,
And
Paul, Anne-Marie. And Marlene's got Ben and Sarah the eldest. Now I've been lucky so far. Also, Anne-Marie's got her little one, Belinda. Yeah. So it made your side look pretty easy now. We haven't sort of passed out much from there. And then who's next after you?
No, she's not here. Mary, she married Al. You can tell her. Yeah, we can go on from Mary. She said Ryan Clayton. And Mary, got Mary. That's right.
And who are theirs? Ray's had, now this goes on a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Victor?
Yeah.
Veronica?
Raylene and Tanya.
And Trevor?
No, we said Trevor.
Oh, sorry.
And Victor's, he's got children?
Victor's got one in born, Jane. His father's my paper last night.
And that's Veronica, what's she got?
Ronnie got 2 girls. He's got Robin, Lincoln. Of course, I don't know what the boys called. Yeah, boys called. Little boy too.
And then there's Trevor, isn't it? He's next.
Trevor's only got one. Little boy, Jamie.
Jamie. And then Raylene.
Riley, she got 3 good girls.
Don't know their name.
No, we call them Americans.
What about Tanya? Is she married?
Yeah, but she got no children.
Right. So then, who was only Mary's other children? There's
Clayton.
Clayton.
Clayton had 2, yeah. And
So-
Ray, you said Ray.
Yeah, so Clayton, he's got 2 boys, hasn't he? Dennis and Gary.
Yes.
Does anybody know about if they're married and what children?
Oh, yes. Gary's got one little girl. And that one has all black kids, but he's left his one out. 2 separated. 2 little girl, boy, 2 little adopted. Then when I got them from my age.
Ah, yes, right.
Yeah, well, he's not living with her now. I don't know what they're doing, but they're separated. But they're kind of divorced or what. She wanted to go and get another one. He wouldn't let her.
So you're losing a lot. So that's those. Well, then this Mary's got, what are they?
Two boys, you've got Stephen and Paul.
Alright, so that's only married, and who's next?
Fred.
Yeah.
So who do you marry, and your children and your grandchildren, but, you know,
I married Harris.
what's the last name, sir?
Harris. Not Harris. Harris.
Yeah.
And two daughters, Jill and Marilyn. Jill, Mary and Grant. They've got two children, Stephen and Hayley. And Marilyn got Kerry. And that's the end of my line.
Yours an easy one as well. Some of the big ones are big ones, aren't they? The small ones are alright. So then who's after Fred?
Marge.
Right.
We can have about who she married. Yeah. We can, or a lot of you can go on about Marge. Yes, because she's married Willow Brown. Yeah. And she's got two sons, Desmond and Jeffrey. Desmond married Jeannie Ma. He hasn't any children. And Jeffrey married Colleen Ma, but they're not related. No. And not really spelled differently.
Oh, she has no phenomenal.
And I've got three boys. Philip, Paul's the young one. Who's the young one? Philip and Michael. That's it. Michael and Paul. But they're not married. None of them are married. So that's me. That's a finished list.
Alright.
Now you got a big tape.
You're
Not jealous of yours. Right, I married Lois Simper, and we have 5 children, one lovely sex, or
So just their names, they'll give us an
John.
idea.
Do you want me to say straight away John married, or I'll tell you afterwards?
Children's names first. Yes, your children first.
John, Valerie, Lynn, Kevin, and Colin.
Right.
Right, John married Janice.
I think that's going to be a struggle for us anyway. See if you can come back to it perhaps later. Say Jan, yes.
You're right, they've got 2 sons, Kerry and Darren. They're not married. Valerie's got 5. No, Valerie married Barry Maguire, 5 children, Louise, Deirdre, Christopher, Timothy, and Philip. None of them are married.
Right.
Right, that's it. Lynn married Peter Kelly, 5 children, Brian, Denise, Michael, Kevin, and Ian. None of them are married. And Kevin married Glenn Milligan. They've got 3 children, Cherie, Troy, and Craig. Because they're the kids. Colin married Debbie Robertson, and they've got 1 son, but Colin's got a stepson.
Oh, right. Yes.
So that's my family.
Right. So it's pretty well covered your lot, I think, then, hasn't it? Yes. Right. And now who's next in line?
Linda.
Right.
Last of the line. Always. Well, I married Sid Harford, and I had 4 children, Tom, Pat, Sandra and Christopher. Tom's got 2 children, son and daughter. Pat's got 2 sons.
Can you remember their names for us?
Oh yeah, but Tom's kids are Andrew and Tonya. Tonya's married. Pat's got Gregory and Grant. Gregory's married, no children. And Sandra married Winston Bellamy, and she has got 3 children. What's her company? Sean, Michelle, and Louise. Not married.
And then there's Christopher then.
And Christopher's got married. No, he's not married.
No, I haven't said, I said Sandra, didn't I? Christopher's not married.
No.
But Christopher's got a son,
What's his name?
Christopher Harrison.
All right. Right. So that's covered everybody from sort of sisters and brothers. We'll try to remember that now. See if we can go the other way by remembering your mother's maiden name, who she married, and see if we can work back from there to see how far we can step back through that lot.
Mother's name was Walsh, Mary Walsh. She married Alec McKinnon.
They married here in Australia?
Yeah.
Where about in Clare?
Yeah.
All right.
And now from there, you want to know how it goes on from there?
Yes, see what we can put together, perhaps if you can remember her parents.
Yes. And
She was a Fincher. She was a Fincher. Was Fincher.
who?
Grandma.
Yes, she was a Fincher, wasn't she? Fincher. She what was her name? What's Grandma's name? Anne. Anne. Grandma's name was Anne, wasn't it?
Her husband's name was Patrick, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yes, I think it was Patrick.
Could be Patrick.
William or something, or William Patrick.
Could be that. Could be that.
We didn't know him, see.
No, he died before. So then, what goes on from there?
So on grandfather's side, your father's side.
Oh, Kathleen know more about that.
Not very little about that too.
No, we didn't know his.
See, I didn't know my grandpa. He was dead.
That's all.
He was dead, and they had a big family.
I asked out of the cousin, his niece's 80th birthday, what was grandfather McKinnon's name, and no one seemed to know.
I think one of the Gordon girls told me his name was James. I'm not sure whether she said James or Alex.
That was our father's second name.
I said, where did he come from in Scotland? She said, from the Isle of Skye. Well, that's where the McKinnon family hang out in the Isle of Skye. Some of them were sheep breeders, I think others were sheep stealers.
And grandmother's name was, McKinnon's name was Harriet, wasn't it?
Her name was
We
Harriet.
don't know much about them, do we?
No, you see, because they were all passed on when we were all very young. But
We didn't get to know them because we lived in
Isn't
the
there some
country.
Welsh in our blood somewhere?
Grandma Walsh was
yeah,
Welsh.
Grandma.
Grandpa Walsh was Irish. Where was he born?
Tipperary.
Tipperary.
Was he born on the boat coming out?
Okay.
Was he born on the boat coming out? Grandfather?
Don't know, we
Was
don't
he born on the boat coming out?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he was.
don't know too much about them. We so we're all young and they
Then there
were...
was another brother too, you can't know of there. Uncle Ted, well,
Oh,
you remember Uncle
Red
Ted?
Rusty,
That's
yes.
right, that's
He was
right.
smaller now, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Now look this man to eat, knows a lot of truth.
I still love it.
Well, no, I wouldn't know the difference, so exactly what you need to say.
Well, lovely, you see, there was all aunties and uncles, because we don't go back too far on the McKinnon side.
So how far do we have to go back before we get to the stage where there's who came out from, say, Wales?
Grandfather's father, his grandfather come out from Scotland, didn't he?
Yes, I believe
Yeah, he came out from Scotland. Oh, but
Well, only Grandma Walsh came from Wales.
from the Welsh. She was
She's Irish.
grandfather did.
But he was Irish.
Grandma Walsh,
She was Welsh and grandfather was Irish, and that was the one that came out from
yeah, grandma was born out here. Grandma was always here, Grandma Walsh.
Yes, you do, yes. You do.
Oh, well, she's a Welsh.
Yeah, Casino and all that.
Yes,
Is this Anne Finch you're talking about,
Yeah.
Grandma Walsh?
yes.
I really didn't know more about the McKinnons.
Yes, it is. We don't know a terrible lot about them, really.
You know, we go to the archives.
Actually.
Yeah, but Mary's husband, she's
Yes.
he's a cousin, the first cousin of my mother. Got record.
Very deep.
My grandmother and his grandmother were sisters.
I know who could tell us a little more about the McKinnons would be Elma. She's not here, no, she's
You see, when we had Idea's party,
She's
we hadn't had a chance to speak to anyone. And
No.
they were not very entertaining. They never sort of had around
Yeah.
focus or anything. But sort of Kathleen's 80th birthday, everyone was there.
yeah, no, that was nice. There was
We were in the hall, there, on his big,
and everybody was friendly, and everybody spoke, you know, got to know one another there. The Gordon girls were there, you know, and some of my sisters and brothers never saw any of those. They're first cousins. I knew all those.
Kathleen, she went to school with Claire. Well, she knew those people. We didn't.
Yes, I knew all those.
Never even knew Grandma.
Because you see, they're all passed on.
Well, there's a point too. We'd probably move into something else because, you know, you're saying we can't go back much further with the family side from that. Give us a little bit of an idea of the history of the family as they moved around. Where were you born, for example?
Claire.
Claire. And then
Morning, Claire.
Yes.
I was just wondering about that way.
No, Claire.
Oh,
Mum always said Claire. I haven't even went to see my birth certificate or anything. It's always been Claire. That's where I was born.
Where was Mum born? Wild Horse Plain,
Virginia.
Virginia. Well, when she died, I said to one of the uncles then, where was Mum born? And one of them said Virginia, and the other one said Wild Horse Plain. But you imagine in those days there wouldn't be much difference.
No, you're not much. And then again, someone she was born at Claire.
No.
He told me Wild Horse Plain.
Yes,
She didn't. Well,
it was always me. She was born in Virginia.
That's what he told me. They said probably was next door, which I wouldn't say at the time.
No.
Well, that's not, yes, that's right. Virginia Wild Horse Plains would have been probably together rather than being
Would have
separate.
been.
So where'd the family move from there?
Father went up north when he was 15, and when he came back he was 20.
When you talk about our father,
Yeah, they didn't know anybody. They didn't know him. He went up there when he was a lad.
This is your father, isn't it?
Okay.
Right.
And they his parents didn't want him to go. And they said, blacks will kill you. You're too young to go away up there. They did.
Get around with his
What year? 19. Now, what year was this? Because he must have been born. When was he born? 18.
Oh, don't ask me
I'll
that.
tell you. You can work it out. I got his birth.
He was working in the
56
shop.
when he died.
At school.
He was 56 when he died. And he died when I was, well,
3.
we'll say, I don't know, between 2.5 and 3.
That's 1990 to 1920, I think.
And that's, say I was 2, that would make 66 years ago.
Oh, you're older than that.
Well, I was 3, it would make 67 years ago.
He was 3.
So he died 67 years ago, and he was 56 when he died, and how old, what year would that make him born?
Well, you said that he was 56 when
He died.
he died, and you were 2 years old.
And I was
No, she was
3 years old. So what year were you?
1916.
So that was 1919 that he died.
Yes.
Right. So 56 years back from that is 1843.
1843 he was born, that's our father, Alexander. So, born a long time.
Following the recording of this tape, it was established that Alexander James McKinnon was born on the 27th of November 1862 in Clare, South Australia. He died on the 22nd of July in 1919 in Adelaide, South Australia at the age of 56. We'll now return back to the recording.
So obviously he wasn't married when he moved way up north.
No, I was only 15.
Yeah.
When he came back, he was 21. None of them knew him. His mother said, I'll try and get a look at his finger. He had a whitlow on his finger. And you see, it grows over the top of it. So his 2 sisters were home, the 2 youngest ones. And he wanted to know where Mr. McKinnon was. And I said, oh, they're both gone shopping. He said, oh, will you come back? No, we'll wait. So he waited there. And the sister didn't know who he was. And when they ran to meet the mum and dad coming home in a buggy, travelling. And there's a young man in here, he won't go if he sees you. They walked in, and he said, good afternoon, or whatever it was, and they spoke to him. And she went away into one of the other rooms and called the girl. She said, I think that's Ellie. So she said, I want to get a look at his finger. She said, I think it's him. And it was him. See, had a beard and all. I got the photo home now. A young man with a beard.
You think they recognise their own son, huh?
Well, been away all those years.
15 to 21 will make a
Grandfather was asked to look at his finger.
No, it was his mother. She told me. Grandma McKinnon said, so I look at his finger. when she saw that, she knew it was him.
I thought he was away for longer than 5 years.
I was 20 when he came back.
So, but I was saying beforehand too, so the family, as you remember, you're in Clare, but the family, they moved from, well obviously they must have moved from Clare. What was the next stop?
The next stop they up to up north, Northern Territory.
But just, was that our mother?
Mum, Dan.
Yes, but as a family.
Yeah, they took me. I was just, they took me up there.
Mm-hmm. Where was that up north? Whereabouts? Northern Territory?
Oh, right up Charlotte Waters.
Right.
Right up there.
What was the idea for going right up there?
That's where he worked. He was stockman.
But
He
you
was
just did it this time?
No. He was a stockman.
Oh, right.
Stockman, you see.
Yeah.
So he went go back to his work up there. And his mother said to me, or Grandma McKinnon said, I wouldn't have went up there with any man. I said, yes, you would, if you loved them. I said, you go. She said, way up there and take a nice young woman like your mother, because she was nice. You know, she was really pretty. Went away up there in the Northern Territory. So, you follow anyone with love? Well, you true. Yeah. So, then the rest of the family was all born up there, except Madeline. She was born in Dad, wasn't she? And all the rest born up there. Father, I know he attended to Linda because I was old enough to know all that then.
Yeah, I was there too.
Yes.
Wouldn't let me into the room. Yes.
No.
Yeah, wouldn't let me in.
No, I see, I heard the baby crying. I wasn't a trooper. I don't know what that was, but I heard the baby crying. And I leant over. We was all sleeping outside under a big bower place that Father built in close back. And I leant over and just woke him up because he was, and I said, come on, Mummy's got a baby. Bill? Yeah, and the baby died. He said, loving you.
Not Bill.
She wrote Bill. Yeah, I wrote Bill.
Oh.
He had a baby. Well, where was you anyway? That's what was going on. So,
I thought you were in the room with her.
no, I went in after the baby was born. I went in, not right in the bedroom.
Oh, I
I
thought
sat
you
by
were
the
there.
door. No, I sat by the door on a chair. Father brings this little baby out and put it in my arms. Born. Put it in my arms. And then he said, here's your little sister. And he went and got some boiled water and a teaspoon. I had to give her the boiled water. And it was a hot night. It was February. March.
Up there.
Was it a hot night? And Bill didn't remember. He went off to sleep again. But I was curious. I went in. So I was the first one to nurse and give her the water. Yeah, boiled water
Yes,
and a teaspoon.
I'm very curious.
He said, I was standing in there, went and stood in the door, and the next thing the door was shut. Oh, he was young. He was only
How old I've been, about 6.
Yeah, just a little.
6 or 7.
Boy, was 2.
We've been more than he was about 7. No,
7. Yeah, I reckon I was about 7.
he was about 7 years. Oh dear, so then.
I wanted to find out for myself where baby's got. I didn't want
Family downstairs.
You didn't have a cabbage patch up there.
Oh, we were all going to Alice Springs. You know, all of our sisters are going up to Alice Springs. We went in to book our seats, and I was saying, oh yes, we lived up there, and are all going back curious again to have a look around. I said, she was born under Cabbage Patch.
Well, actually, you can go back too, can't you, on your family side of even the data, were you the only whites at the
That's
time?
right.
Among the blacks?
That's right. But you know, trying to get yeah.
So you might be able to sort of tell that's around you.
Yeah. Graham, we were the only white family up there. And Bill was the first white family. All the blacks in the camp.
Is there any problems with the Aborigines? Were they docile or were they aggressive or what?
Takes it another month to call her Hakachi. Yeah, Hakachi means a child.
said she was never afraid of the blacks.
No, I never black. One time, just my baby up there, then.
She's asleep with a revolver under her.
Oh, yes, just in case. She never used it for the habit. So the silly black from a cranky dick, he's with the baby house all day. She was on the range. He was just in the waist. Little boy.
The waist jacket.
He had no hair.
Decently dressed with waistcoat.
Short thing on it, make it short.
What did he say he was going to kill? What he used to call us when Father was away? He was going to kill us. What he used to call Father?
The boss.
Yeah,
Boss. Well, don't you go down in your history too that when you left there, didn't you have to leave there in a hurry from Udinadatta?
Yeah.
Was it on account of the father?
Before you go any further, and that's why my name is Charlotte. Have you got that down on there? Yeah, Princess called that, you know, Princess Charlotte, somewhere over there.
Yes, the rest of it.
Well, the reason
So you were from Udinadatta beforehand was
your father.
Then he always called me, he couldn't say Lottie, he used to say, what did he used to call me? What did he used to call me? Ottie, that's right. He always called me Auntie Ottie. Now, when you first went up there, you went to Udinadatta. Yes, went to. And where did you live, how long did you live at Udinadatta? We lived up there, years. We lived a lot of
No, we didn't have Udinadatta.
We lived, I went to Udinadatta. I was in Udinadatta for a while when I first went out, and from there she
I don't know. We went only with her.
and then we went to Charlotte Waters, and Father built
That was that Charlotte Waters.
yeah, that's where he was working. And he built all, you know, the mouth oil, whatever, like all this black stuff, you know, he built
All the hair people. My old car was this.
She used to use that floor covering at one time, didn't
Yeah,
she? 30 years ago. And how many of us were born there at Charlotte Waters?
All of you, seven years, and Lottie.
Lottie was born in Charlotte Waters.
Yeah,
My sister was born there then, because that lady that died was born in Udinadatta. Or where was Linda Mar Wells that she...
Oh, that was a little siding.
That was an outstation of Mount Dare.
An outstation of Mount Dare.
Yes, Mount Dare.
And that's why I'm called Linda.
Yes.
Actually, it's called Lindum or Lindrum because I looked it up on the map. Lindum.
Well, I looked it up when I was working in the post office, all the place names, and all I could find similar to it was a Lindum, Aberlindum, I think. Aberlindum Well, that's the nearest thing I could find a Lindum.
Well, there was a friend of ours at Morphville and he had a map there and we looked at this map. It must have been an old one and I think it was called Lindum on the map. Yes,
so we
I saw it on there too.
Good thing they kept moving around so they get names for you.
You know, the father named every one of the children except me, and
No, they were sent to you.
and all I'm over there. And Mother named me before he sat down, sent telegram or something, call me Madeline May. Well, she got.
Oh, you were supposed to be Madeline, weren't you?
I was supposed to be Madeline May, but I was called Kathleen Marion. After one of Mum's best girlfriends, she said she was girlfriend was called Kathleen. Auntie Sarah called me Marion, named me Marion.
And Fred's supposed to be called Frederick Dunn, but he doesn't open the door.
I always thought he was.
Yeah, I think he is.
I went through school, I went through the army, and I worked as Frederick Duncan. And when I passed my permanency exams in the PMG, they wanted my birth certificate, or a copy of my birth certificate. And I went and got it for them. All I had on it was Frederick. I took me notice of that, never took me notice of that at all, until I had to collect an insurance policy sometime later, and they wanted a birth certificate again. And on that was Frederick, just Frederick, and they said, "You're Frederick Duncan." Well, then I had to get someone who knew me to state that I was one and the same person. But eventually I went into the registrar and checked up. And they said, "No, Frederick's your name, that's your name." So a little while after that I had officially changed by default to Frederick Duncan, so I am.
Oh, you're not Frederick Duncan.
Officially,
But you were never given a second name, but I
No, you always thought he was.
Yeah, right.
all my life, I always thought I was. I didn't read papers or anything that I ever thought.
Well, we know.
Alec Williams, wasn't it?
Alexander.
Alexander Williams.
Yeah.
Bill, yes.
Well, when grandmother and all of you left up there at Udinadatta or Charlotte Waters, that was what, after your father had died, or he had died then?
We were
moved down to the hospital.
Oh,
We're all down here, very sick.
Is that why you went through the death of those?
Because my mum was sick. Mum was ill and Bill.
And he wasn't home, was that
No,
all the time?
no.
He was down here dying of cancer.
I didn't know which one was dying first, mother or father. I got 2 telegrams in one day to say that mother wasn't expected to live. And I wanted grandma to let me go up. And she said, you're too young to travel all that way on your own. And she said she was too old, but she wouldn't have been. In those days, people used to
Well, what about the old grandma? She wanted to go up and it didn't matter.
And I said, well, can't you put me in charge? Like, will someone look after me? She said, no, I won't let you go. I said, Mum could die. What would happen to all those little children? They're all very young. And she said, well, I can't let you go. So I got another I replied the telegram, to see whether I should come up. And Grandma said, no, you're not coming up. So I got another telegram the next day to say, brother slightly improved, mother still serious. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And I used to go to bed at night and I used to say, Grandma, can't we go up? She said, no, we can't, I'm too old to go with you. She really wasn't, I don't think. It's just those days that people used to think they were a lot older.
Well, Grandma was like it.
When you come to think of it, it was a long, long way to go in those days.
I know.
To send you on your own would have been unthinkable.
How old were you?
16?
I was 16.
In those days, to travel
I
around
know.
the territory, I mean, there was nothing up there, only desert. It's different these days.
Yes, she wouldn't let me go. She said, you're too young. She said, you're on my care. She said, if you want anything happen to me, letting me go for being so young, travelling all that way on my own. So then Mum's brother, Uncle Johnny, he...
Grandma wanted to go. Grandma went as far as Mooker to go to leave Arthur there. And Auntie Kate said, you can't go. You're too old. I'm going with Jack. Auntie Kate was like, she was boss. Grandma was going to Mooker and look after her family. She's mother's Uncle Jack. We're trying to brother.
Was there in the day even a big place even at this stage, was it?
Little town.
Just a little town.
Was that hospital, like school?
Yes.
I've got a house and a dog called Mick.
I tried. Didn't they send somebody out of the
There was a school there.
Oh, yeah, go to school.
Oh, they rounded me up. I was running to tell me to the school.
St. Mary went to school. I was one day, Mum was something up. I couldn't wash it. The boss had her in there.
Oh, didn't you have an eventful trip after you left there to come on down?
Oh, my word,
I've heard stories about that. What was the story say on the way? Came on the cattle train.
You came down. Mum had a sign to come down in the
It's in that bed.
She had a sign to come in.
We're all at the station there.
I'll show you. There it is. You see Uber Data written on the station. There we are. See Uber Data?
Yeah.
We're all in the Catholic. Oh, the pieces of that, nothing in there, and there.
Oh, yes, there is. It's bigger, a lot bigger now than what it was.
Oh, you got hospital.
Yes, it is. Everything's gone to pieces and everyone. It's not there and it's been here, it hasn't been station. No, two of the days,
See, our days before the internet out of railway station, they had a hotel there. That's right. That's a lot of publicity.
And they were up there working for 2 years and this came back, said it's too much.
What about when I picked Mum up in the desert?
And then they come out there and talk to her in the field. I was sick. I've got me on.
When we were all, I was very ill and they got word in something about this band.
The mum said, to shop up there. Now I said that bed on painkiller because the children were all ill and the blacks was on there in the camp. They knew it was wrong with Mum. Instead of sending stuff out, policemen, and nursemen, they come up in a car.
In a car?
An old rabbit.
Hey, Model 4.
Yeah.
There was about 2 cars in the territory at that time. The place, station owner just had moved it out, a fellow called Joe Braden on Bottom Water Station owned one, and it was his car that came out. A go right.
Yeah, you see, I wasn't there. Soon after that, the mum had that baby. They had it in the hospital and she had that baby.
Oh, no, she's only been there for a few days.
Yeah,
She moved
very ill.
had it and they were straight at 4 days. No, Elizabeth come to me and she said, get a blanket around you, I'm going to your
Lovely lady, I'd say,
your
yes,
mother's
thank you.
gone. So I don't want to go. I said, come on, you'll be able to go here. She was just got your brother and me.
They had a screen around her.
They got your brother and me. She was all by herself.
I wrote 3, I was just going to write then. Well, listen, was that when your father died too?
Yeah, he died.
Oh, she was in hospital.
Yeah.
Didn't they get everybody out of a boarding house or something? He was in there.
Yeah, Bill went in there to see Mum and he got the door, he was crying. I thought, oh, what did she do? She wanted your mother might say something to you. And she did. She said, I do believe your children haven't got a father now. She did say.
She asked Bill, she went
I don't know what she told Bill.
But she didn't know for a week after.
No, she didn't know for a
She
week.
didn't know, I think it was longer than a week.
No,
she
a
was,
week.
sitting, she was in bed, and the first day she was up, sitting out the ground in the chair all wrapped in the blanket. And all us children were called to her, and we all left down around us up on the floor, and she left us to us. Okay, Bill knew, poor old Bill, the only one that knew. Called him to the kitchen and told him, and
And what, he couldn't tell you others?
wasn't allowed to. And I went outside with him, sitting in bed one arm and Linda in the other one. He was crying, cuddling his 2 kids. And I said, what's the matter, Bill? And he said, nothing. I said, what's the matter? I could hear him telling something in the kitchen. I shut the door and put him in the kitchen. And when he came out, he was all upset. Then he couldn't tell.
Well, how old would Uncle Bill been then, when all that happened?
15, wasn't it? About 15, wasn't it?
I don't think he was that old.
No, I said I was 13, Bill said he was. Bill was about 14.
Bill's there with he's in that photo with a big high hat on his head.
Yes, I think it was around his neck.
I reckon I was about 9. I think he was about 4 and a half.
Yes,
No, he is.
Yeah.
No, I think he'd be
No, it's a hat he's got out there, I think, you know.
So I said, like, I was 13, today he was, and he said, I was.
The other one has got Mum in it. Mum is not in this one, but that's when she said they were waiting for the train, a goods train, to bring us out of Udinadatta. There's Fred.
I was,
As soon as I spotted the camera, I tried to get close up
yeah,
to look into it, so I'm right.
There's never
Good hat I got on.
I took Mum and Bill and Linda. They did a doctor and I think the policeman. And they took them and left us other kids. He was supposed to take us along in a buggy.
Lily?
I sent it ahead with them, and we were going there. We would have been there in a buggy. And anyhow, Tom made it. We were sitting all under a tree, the axle broke. Damn axle broke, so Louis went back. Left us all sitting there, and he got a camel. And he put the water and a case of food and everything. We had to walk, didn't we, Fred?
Yeah.
The camel heard the water and everything, and led the camel. And Lottie's big fat legs got tied to his head. Oh, Lottie, a little kid, I was only that tiny. And I was skinny, you know. And she was looking water, she was crying, sitting down, and I had to piggyback. They all died.
Didn't you piggyback in more than
Oh, no, legs just...
piggybacking down the electricity.
Anyhow, we walked all day, to come light, to come dark, and we made some little fires, didn't they? Fed us with a nice cup of tea. So he got up the tree with us,
I wasn't there, you see.
got up the tree, he said, I can see some lights, he did too. We could see a long time before the car got there. Come back.
The cars wouldn't be doing 100 miles an hour, I imagine.
Two couples, no sisters, and he said to Mary, would you like a cup of tea, little boy? She said, "Oh, little boy."
Mary should be that half caste boy was wonderful, wasn't he? That half caste boy, you couldn't have got along without him.
What was he? He's a friend of the family, or...?
What was his name?
Louis.
Louis. I
didn't know.
Sharper, was it, or Taylor? Now, Louis Taylor was the one in Fogarty Store.
Was Taylor the one that what was his name, that Mum looked after when his mother died?
That was Wally, little Wally. Little half-caste boy.
Quarter caste, his mother was half caste. That was nearly white, couple of women looked on her head.
Where's that photo of the Taylor family with some of the children? One of them were quite black and the others are fair.
There's a couple fair and some are too dark, Tommy.
That flu that you've been mentioning, that was called Spanish flu, and it was not Spanish fly, just different. It was an outbreak all over the world after the First World War. People died in their thousands from Europe, and then we got up there.
Fred, it was demonic influence.
Demonic, wasn't it?
Yes.
Well, a lot of it was they call it like blue Spanish.
Don't you hit it right out of the desert?
Yes.
No, that was the soldiers coming out of the war.
Bill could have brought it back.
I felt a lot of horsemen coming back there on the trains, and they say that it came up with...
Then the blacks used to walk about and come out and down around the camp, come out.
Oh, they used to die like flies.
Mum had to send Mum some painkiller or something. And then Bill died. Now Bill could have got a little down. He let father truck me. He had to go and help father was sick. Father sent him on to the black boys with the cattle or the horses that time.
Well, they trucked a lot of cattle there.
Anyhow, father come to put a license with us. And he sent Bill on to catch up the black boys and go with the black, and then he could drive fast next day and catch them up. So we seen him for one night. He got on a horse about 5 times and get off again, kissed us all again and get on again.
Bill was really ill with that flu.
Yes.
Bill was very sick.
He was.
Bill was delirious. He got up and cut him down. Bill's been tied up all night up the top of the bed. I keep pulling back and I'm so
That's what Bill and I in the same room at the hospital.
Mum had it.
But he was flat out on.
Oh, yeah, he was delirious. And took him on in the car.
The sister came in to undress him. He soon came alive. he sat up and tried to take his elastic soul. But she said, it's all right, Willie. So she pushed him back on the bed and he stayed there. She undressed him.
Not too bad. He was looking over the ground.
No, I wasn't bad at all.
You know,
Mum did get it. You all had it.
We all had it. I was pretty sick with it.
You all had it, but it wasn't so bad.
Nothing wasn't too bad. Mary wasn't too bad. And Margaret wasn't too bad. I was worse than what the girls were.
did I get it?
No.
Well, yes, you could. Yes, you did. You were in the same room as Rich. You didn't have very bad at all.
No, I didn't. We all right. No, you all had it, because that's what that's what they said when they wrote to me.
Mary and Margaret used to get out of bed and took that thing down back on the board. They didn't want it. I didn't get out of bed. I did get out because I had a was fight.
Didn't I?
I remember that. She would run in a single bed and we came to go down and not kicking one out at night.
Oh, no, just
kicking one out.
I can remember that.
I remember taking her out and took her to the bed and drove her in the morning. Soon we were right off. I know she's been at that bed. I didn't get her. Just down and kicking on about it.
Who carried me in? Somebody carried me in over their shoulder. I remember that.
The man.
We'll pick the story up from here, and I'll interrupt to say that there was a book put out. As you can see, it was called Ian's I Dresses Book, and one of the books is Flynn of the Inland, and I'm going to read an extract that was taken from there, and I'll pick up the story a little bit before the main chapter, which you may choose to read along with me, or if you like, just sit back while I'll read the passage as it comes up on the screen. To give you a bit more of a flavour about the book, we'll pick this up towards the end of chapter 4, and it reads, "This railway was a magnificent enterprise, the attempt of a handful of people to build a line right across a continent for 2,000 miles, and at that, across the very heart classed barren for a decade. Flynn knew that Barron was a libel, but knew also that the inland has tough problems, particularly its own. The railway, when completed, would help to solve some of them. From Darwin on the north, the line ran south 150 miles right to Pine Creek, then followed a break of 900 miles right across the continent to Oodnadatta. To bridge that gap meant statesmanship and money backed by the determination of a people. The line must be finished if we are to live as a nation. Oodnadatta, 688 miles from Adelaide, was the railhead, and this was the starting point of Flynn's ambitions. He had to build his first nursing home here. North, east, west, and a considerable distance south stretched a country in which the British Isles, France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Luxembourg, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, Albania, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and Italy could be stowed with room to spare. In that country lived 50,000 Australians, and Flynn meant to spiderweb its vastness with nursing homes and communications. What a problem faced the man and a few behind him. Motor transport from the centre was the thought an impossibility. Aeroplanes were hardly dreamed of as being practical transport. When the train crawled into the little railhead hamlet, Flynn rolled his swag and stepped out smiling. The future would take care of itself. This was his country. These salt bush and spinifex plains, together with the country of the mountains far away. Oodnadatta was the farthest out place in the inland where skilled medical help was available. Sister Mayne had been installed in the little hostel just before Lady Dudley inspired the bush nurse movement. Mr. and Mrs. Barr Smith were the Good Samaritans who had secretly assisted the hostel. When the Presbyterian Church stood officially behind Flynn, it took over from the Smith of Dunnes movement, and Flynn stepped from the train with his dream stretching continent wide before him. A handful of little houses with white roofs. This, the largest town for 250 miles southward, 500 miles eastward, 750 miles westward, 1,000 miles northward. Back towards Adelaide, twin rails merged into the horizon. A cloud of dust arose from the trucking yards, where a bellowing mob of unwilling cattle, with horsemen galloping on the flanks, were yarded. That mob had travelled 1,000 miles from the Queensland side to provide rump steak for Adelaide. Life-giving water from an artesian bore had made this hamlet of such importance to the travelling stock. Down by the old Nile River clustered dark green trees around Hookie's Hole. The river might be dry, but the pretty waterhole seldom was. In the haze out on the plain that surrounded Oodnadatta and spread beyond the horizon were big cattle herds, sheep too, those struggling under different living conditions to those obtaining in the heavier rainfall country of the coast. Building up those herds were the present-day pioneers. There was room for plenty more, and Flynn was convinced that the people of the cities would help, if they only knew how. It was a warm day. Goats and donkeys sought the shade. The locked-up, deserted sheds, the rails, barrows, scoops, and the idle tools at the railhead showed that the line had ceased. We'll now move to Chapter 5, Grains of Sand, which is the main chapter for us to be concerned with here. We'll pick it up at Flynn took his coat and got right into the job of turning the little hostel into a nursing home. He knew where the tool shed was, and he started to build. he had willing help. People are not slow in helping those who are helping them. One day he was sitting on the kitchen floor, so was Sister. So was an old kerosene stove in pieces. Flynn was covered in soot from head to foot, so was the sister, to her sorrow. But Flynn exclaimed triumphantly as he clamped the battered thing together, "There! It will go like a house of fire now." "Like it went before?" questioned Sister meekly. "Oh no, it won't burn the place down now." "Well, I hope not," murmured Sister. Out of a smudged eye, Flynn gazes proudly at his handiwork, but sensing a lack of enthusiasm, remarked, "You're a bit black, Sister." "So are you." "Oh," Flynn smiled, "a bit of soap and water will fix that. And the floor is nothing. But why so troubled?" "There's a family out there," answered Sister, pointing towards the east, "camped at a waterhole. They worry me." The stockman in charge of an outstation with his wife and 8 children. He's away weeks, sometimes months at a time, mustering. As the water gives out, the family follow it. But the man has ridden in here, cancer on his face. She gazes appealingly at Flynn. "What can I do for cancer?" she always whispered. Flynn's flying blue eyes clouded over. "Won't you go south?" he asked gravely. Sister shook her head. I tried to persuade him, but he just pointed east and said, "My wife and children wait out there," and rode off. But the man rode again later. The agony had proved unbearable. Flynn was building a fowl house. As he rammed down the mulga post he dreamed, as he nailed the wire netting he dreamed, and his dreams were the saving of life. Sweat beaded his lean face as he punched the crowbar into the hard-baked earth. Digging these post holes was laborious, slow work. He was building a fowl house, and he had many hospitals to build. Grudgingly, he straightened his back, gazing out across the plain. Time and slowness. Time was flying. Methods was slow, while a continent waited its hospitals. As the dream haze left his eyes, he gazed steadily at a horseman coming, slowly. Loosely holding the reins, his shoulders drooping. Flynn realised that for this man, his hospital would come too late. With a cheery greeting, Flynn walked to the horse, patting its muzzle while the man dismounted. He looked into Flynn's face. "You are Flynn?" he drawled as they shook hands. "The parson with the dream?" "I'm he," said Flynn. "I have had a dream too." He looked into Flynn's eyes. "My dream will come true. I have a wife and children out there," as he stared hard. "We'll look after them," promised Flynn gravely. Eventually, Sister persuaded him to try the forlorn hope. "Just try," she said. "The train leaves in a few days." "I'll give it a go," he agreed at last, and went south, leaving his heart behind. Later, influenza came to Oodnadatta. While the township was laid low, a blackfellow came in with a message from the mother out at the waterhole. She asked for the medicine. All the children were ill. A station owner happened to be passing through. He had trained a motor car up from Adelaide. A rescue party started out. It was only a 30-mile trip. Eagerly, Flynn watched the work of the car. It went merrily for 15 miles. Then it climbed sandhills. Little ones, 'tis true. But it climbed them, then jolted and bumped over miles of loose gibber stones. Finally it got to a waterhole at the foot of a rocky hills. There was the shed of boughs and saplings, with the blackfellow boiling water at the fire. In 2 tents lay children, all running temperatures, the mother ill and worried. Sister got to work while the motorman sent his car back for a relief party. Sister made her patients comfortable, sorted clothes, packed them, and made up a hamper. She spread her camp stretcher under the sky, but did not use it. The night was bitterly cold, and her patients were calling. At sunrise, the motorman harnessed up the old wagonette, while sisters strapped the swags, dressed the children, and bundled the family aboard. It proved a creaky ambulance, its wheels patched with wire, its pole with green hide. At the first steep creek, the old timber lumbered down the bank, bumped across the stones, and as the horses were strained up the opposite bank, broke a back axle. They comforted the sick people while waiting. When at last the car returned, the worst cases were put aboard and it hurried off, leaving behind two pathetic little figures, one walking on each side of a half-caste with their hands clasped in his. The car returned at nightfall. The children had walked until they could walk no longer. They camped on a rise at the side of the track where the half-caste lit a little fire for each. At the hostel, the sister pulled them all through, though the mother nearly followed her baby when it was born. Perhaps the father was waiting to greet it, but they did not tell her that yet. The dreamer sighed as he gazed north and east and west. The nursing home had saved this family, all but two. But how about those other families calling throughout 500 miles of country to the east, over 1,000 miles to the north, and over 1,000 miles to the west? And that's where we'll leave our reading, but isn't it interesting to see how what was written goes very much hand in hand with what the brothers and sisters were talking about with their experience at the time of the influenza and their mother losing that child. We will now return back to the recording with the brothers and sisters.
Into me.
Well, I suppose I've never seen anybody before, only blacks.
Yeah,
I suppose I was scared out of my
The greatest thrill of my life when we were in that, it actually was a big boarding house, a railway boarding house or something, and it had a long passage that ran straight up to it and to the front door. And the train used to come up once a fortnight.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, they didn't used to go back again, but used to get in Friday nights. And on Sundays, the railway blokes used to shut. But the engine used to go, I never seen a railway engine, it used to go right past the front door. I used to do like that. So I used to spend half the time, halfway out the door, and my neck out here, and watching this engine.
Because you've never seen
Sister came along one day, she said, "You're not supposed to get back into bed, Freddie," but I only had a shirt on, you see, and it was very embarrassing. Sister coming behind me with a bare ass, looking at the... I was only a small girl. But you were tall.
Remember when one of us was born, someone was carrying piggyback and Fred or something? I think it was that hardcast.
Sounds like he's been most of
And
his
someone
life.
he said, Mummy's got another baby. And someone said to Fred, what is it? He said, I don't know. He said, I think it's a boy because it's got a long string hanging on.
That long thing. In the morning, they got to Mr. Ken all day, and Father got up early, right, and walked up to Mr. Ken, and didn't know I was getting a baby, didn't know that.
No, those days we didn't. Do you know when the little baby died of Mum's? Because they had it in a white box. I wasn't there.
No,
He was born, how old was he when he was dying? He was born dead, right?
No, I was 3 days old.
He was about,
He was that high.
Yeah, this is in a little box. Only a little white box. She's telling me this about Marge. She's telling me this. She was a little white, just a little white box.
to see it.
I was sitting, she and I was looking at that, and I didn't know what was in it first. She and I looked at it, and it was a little baby. She said, but I didn't know what it was. She was funny. I said, you didn't. She didn't know there was a little baby in there, though, because she's only very tiny. Yes,
I might have tried to say, when you little couples in that room, we could climb up and
she really known. And she said she didn't know what was in the little box. Little white box. Yeah, little white box, she told me.
For Mum, you know, to leave her baby in there. And her husband,
she just had
Actually,
those troubles and things.
talking about husbands and things like that, I'm saying to Dad before we come over here today, looking at grandmother and everybody here, everybody's lost their spouse.
That's
Before they have gone. So Uncle Bill died out of Tony Mary, and everybody here has lost their spouse.
That's right, everybody.
Amazing.
It is, isn't it? When you think the whole
McKinnons must be the hardiest stock, mustn't they? That out there too.
Yes.
Tough breeders now.
Breeders now.
That's all that goat's milk, Madeline.
I'm just trying to get the connection together. When did everybody actually move to Adelaide then?
They went to Kadina,
He was down to Mookra for a while.
Where's that?
Near Corn, up the way up the line then. Steve,
I'm still walking with them.
Right.
our mother's brother was managing a station there,
Or Jack.
Jack Walsh, and we stayed there for a while. In fact, I went to school at Mookra, I think, for about a month or something.
What, again?
Yeah, he went to school for a while.
You got from school?
They kicked me out of reading that school. I failed a finger painting in kindergarten. I wouldn't make it, so they sent me on to school.
And your life is going to be tough for them.
Yes, and then we eventually came on down to Kadina where our grandmother was.
Yeah, Mum's
and
all down here.
Oh, right.
and other people were around that area, and we came down to there and eventually lived there for about,
Until the mine's closed.
I think about 7 years or something. I lived in Kadina.
Yeah, well, how long was Grandma there before she married Sam Stevens?
Well,
5 years.
Oh, was it a good while?
No, not that long.
let's see.
Yes, one.
Yes,
Yeah, about 5 years.
because I think I was just turning 10 when we came to Kadina, and I was obviously about 15 then.
Yes, but she would have been there for about 5 years. And she got married because, you know, why she got married there? She said, when I saw she didn't want it, she said Fred was still single and he might have
How
wanted
old was your mum then when she got married to him?
To Sam.
Sam.
How old are you, Linda?
I was about 11, I think. And she would have been 40. She would have been 40, would she 40, 41, wouldn't she?
Well, I don't know. Now, you know when you got your head cut open with that stone?
That was when she got married.
That was the night I got married.
Out through the stone.
Yeah, and you
Nothing
were...
coming out of the honeycomb. Pat walks through a stone at the
Somebody
door.
after us down, we squealed when the girlfriend was in there.
Yeah.
We're just getting ready to go back to the hotel. And Westcott hung out. Who was it? Evelyn. No, Evelyn.
Doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, so don't show another time. We're coming out now. And Uncle Pat's through one. Just was all over my good idea.
Well, you were working at the hotel.
Yeah, yes.
Well, you couldn't have been very young.
No, I wasn't working at Carmel.
No, this is what we're saying. How old was Mum when she married Samuel? That was the night you had your head cut open.
That was she was about 40 or 41, wasn't she, Fred?
I was about 11.
Well, I'm not sure what age she was. I was trying to think just now what age she was when the last infant was born in Oodnadatta.
Oh, she was
Because
in...
when they gave her up for lost, I think she lived for about 50 years after.
Well, look, I was say
Well,
3.
really?
I was 3 when that happened. And I'm 69 soon. So that's going back 60, what, years?
71 years.
66 years ago. And Mum was 82 when she died, wasn't she? And
Mum
she's
was
been there 20
80. No,
years.
she was 81.
You still going to school, wasn't it Fred, when Mum married you?
What's that?
You still going to school when Mum married Sam?
Yes, you were 16, weren't you?
Oh, 16, I left school at 13. School at 13 to go to work for $1 a week or 10 shillings to
Just in the summer.
help my mother.
Oh, I thought you were 16.
And I used to get my 10 shillings and give it to her. Then I used to borrow it off her through the week. Pay
12 shillings.
Pay 3 shillings in a car to go to Wallaroo to see a little girl. I was involved with there. I think I used to get money for tax.
And that unfortunately was where the recording finished. We did not get to find out from the group just what age Grandma Stevens was when she married Sam, but it'd be fair to say she was in her early 40s. I apologise that at times it was a little difficult to hear everything that was being said, but when more than one person spoke at a time, it became distorted. Nonetheless, isn't it wonderful that we have a record of these marvellous people, each one a gem? I'd point out also that not all the pictures were taken from the family records. Many were taken from the internet just to add variety to the vision. Hopefully this is something you can share with your children and for generations to follow.